And then we have Kat Ferris, who is a Hyena round keeper. So we're all going to sort of take part in presenting this slideshow. So we'll be switching around as we go. So I'm just sharing it now. Hopefully everyone can see that. So we've been training Hyena here at Monado for probably close to 12 years now. We sort of started doing different behaviours with them. So we have done a variety of different training behaviours. Like the one we're going to focus on today is venipuncture or blood draws. The area that we do this in is what we call our crush. So the crush itself is just a narrowed part of the race where we have our load bars for weighing, and we do the venipuncture behaviours all in this crush area. So we don't really have to, as the name might sound, we don't actually have to crush them up into a smaller space. It's just the term that we use for that area of the race. Our previous design that we had for taking bloods, as you can see in this little picture here, we had a little slide. And you can't really see it, but on the mesh, there's like a little U-shaped piece of Rio that sort of juts out. So the idea was that the hyena would come up to this slide. We'd ask them to come against the fence so they could feel that little U-shaped piece of Rio on their leg, and that would tell them that they were in position. And then we'd open up this little slide in order to be able to access the leg for blood draws. The limiting factor that we found with this was because it was only on 1 yard. If we had certain hyenas in this yard, then we couldn't access this area for other individuals. So you could really only train the animals that were in that yard, and that was it. So we sort of moved away from this design and we went to our crush area like I was explaining before. So you can see the crush here. Obviously, we've got a picture of one of them here at the moment. We modified it so that we can take out these little panels at the bottom, so we can have full access to their hind legs. I guess because the raceway itself is sort of narrow and it's not, it's not that high. It was harder to try to do blood draws from the neck in this sort of space, which is why we've sort of stuck with using the area for the rear legs. However, because it's in the raceway, pretty much every hyena that we have on site at some point will come through this raceway. So they can all access this area, whereas what we were talking about before, if it's in a yard, then we're only limited to who we can actually put through the crush. So yeah, we're able to sort of run all of our hyenas through this training space, and we've adapted, and you can see down here we've got the load bars here. So we do a lot of training in here because we do weigh them in here. We've got our load bars in here to record their weights, and so we sort of team that up with other behaviours that we're asking them. We do, I guess, a variety of behaviours. We do other things that aren't necessarily veterinary focused. In the past, we've done target training where we've set up targets within their night yards and asked them to go out and touch different targets. If we set up a bunch of them, we might go and ask them to touch the red one or the blue one or the yellow one, and they're placed sort of strategically through their night yards. Other things we've done with them is finding unique items. So we'll go and hide a unique item in their night yards, and then we'll send them out to go and find that item. Obviously, we haven't shown them where it is. They'll go out, find that item, bring it back, and get their reward. So we do a range of different behaviours. It's not just sort of veterinary focused stuff. But yeah, in this instance, we're looking at venipuncture. So as I said, blood's taken from the hind leg. The vein itself, Kat's going to tell us the actual vein that we're going into. So what I'm going to do now is hand over to Kat, and she's going to explain the process that we go through to achieve these behaviours.
Cool. Thank you. So yeah, we use the, like John said, that training space to make it a little bit smaller. It's mainly to keep the keepers safe and our vets safe, so then we're not putting our hands all the way in. But we get the blood from the lateral saphenous vein. We have found that it's best to start when the animals are young, but we've had wonderful success with our adults as well. We've just found that for some adults it can take a little bit longer depending on their previous training, and also some habits that may need to be retrained out of them. And then we also take into consideration, of course, the animal's personality. So I've listed 3 animals here: Forest, Makoko, and Fahari. So Fahari's the female that we use for all of the videos we're about to show. Forest is actually the mum to both of Makoko and Fahari, and this is where for Forest, she's a very nervous animal. She's 17 years old now, and so we've never actually been able to get a conscious blood sample from her. She's also was one of our main breeders, so her training was very sporadic. She'd have a cub, her training would stop, then we'd start up again. Makoko is who we call our little superstar. So he's actually one of the males that will allow all our vets and our vet nurses to practice on, so that then they can move to our other more sensitive animals and get the blood samples from them. And then, like I said, Fahari is going to be the one in this video, and she just, she started her training this way and she just ticked all the boxes really well. And the most important thing is to just end on a positive. That's what we've found with our animals. So this is pretty much what I'm going to go through from 1 through to 5. So getting them calm in the space, making that space smaller, introducing movement towards the hip and the leg, and then introducing a hip and leg touch with the finger, then a blunt needle, and then finally introducing a hold. Yep, next. Yep, cool. So first of all, getting them used to the training area. It helps, like John said, that our animals already have this positive association in this area. We never shut the animals in, and you'll see that the slide is always open behind them. They also have access to the yard behind them, so it's completely free choice. And then it's also really important that we don't have any of the other animals coming into that area standing behind them as well, because they're not going to stay focused with us. They're going to be thinking about what's going on behind them. So, and some will progress faster than others. So here it's just getting the animal comfortable, charging clickers, and just getting them used to that area. For all of these videos, I have kind of gone a little bit quicker. So just take into consideration that, just because, we haven't got all day. So I have had to go a little bit quicker with them, but that's just getting them used to that area. So then we work at getting the space to be a little bit smaller. And so you can close it in 1 hole at a time, 2 holes at a time. Well, Harry was a superstar with all of this back in the day. So then we always back them out and close the slide, and then make the space smaller again. And so then this is what we're working up towards. And some you can only move really slowly, others just progress really quickly. So this next step with moving the hand towards the hip and the leg, we added in because we found that some didn't care, but there was one like Makoko who, if you moved your hand towards his hip, he actually got quite scared. So we had to add in this step. He would actually crunch himself up to the very front of that training space. And so we had to work really slowly with him to get him used to just your hand coming towards his hip. The one thing I think of with this is, with spotted hyenas, the way that they greet, they will sniff each other's genital areas. And so for me, or for us as trainers, going towards that genital area is quite a vulnerable thing for a hyena. So we want to make sure that we're taking our time at this stage. And I always say, don't be tempted to touch yet. If they are looking a little bit reactive at this stage, you want this to be kind of perfect before moving on. And again, I'm going a little bit quicker. Some you got to go a little bit slower than this. And I always go for the hip first because our hyenas, they're very tactile. So we give them all the scratches and we're able to touch them on the hip first. And so then I move to the leg because that is a bit more vulnerable for them. So then this is the first touches with first the finger, and then we introduce the needle. So there's a couple of little things in that video. You can see she got a little bit distracted by a cub calling, but she chose to stay in that training space, which was awesome to see. But she could have chosen to leave if she wanted to. That would have been the end of our training session. And I'll add as well with this stage, it's really important that when you're going for those first touches to not touch them too lightly. The only reason I say it is because I've done it. So if you touch them too lightly, they start to either flinch because it's like a fly, or they'll start flicking their leg, and then you've trained the leg flick. And so then you've got to retrain them to not do that. So you want to be firm enough that you're not tickling them, but you also don't want to be too firm that you're kind of being too aggressive with it. And then you work up to getting a more firm touch and a more firm poke with that needle. So then this is introducing a hold, and we always start off with a really short hold, and then we vary the amounts of holds, the lengths of hold with them. So for Fahari, she can only hold for about 10 seconds at the moment. So she's just had some cubs, so her training kind of stopped again, and we've just been kind of getting that back on track again. Whereas like for Makoko, he can hold, we timed him for a minute and he still would have gone on longer. So our aim is to get them to hold for a longer period of time. I suppose it's different compared to like getting from the jugular, where that animal has to present a neck. We can actually reinforce in between, which is very helpful for us. And then we can go back to that hold because they just stand in that space. So yeah, that's it from me. We'll hand over to Rachel.
Hello. So I was just going to talk a little bit about some of the challenges that we've come up against over the years. And obviously we've just seen all of those beautiful videos that Kat has put together. So just for a bit of context on this round, this is our mixed carnivore round. So we don't just have hyena to look after, we also have our African painted dogs. We have 14 hyena and 6 dogs that's shared between 2 keepers. Our wider carnivore team has other species as well. But yeah, some of the challenges that we found is a lot of, as we've expanded quite quickly in the number of animals we have, trying to keep things consistent across everybody. So some of the points that we've got down here, clan dynamics and social hierarchy can be a big one for us. So at the moment within those 14 hyena, we have a clan of 7 that has 4 little cubs. We have a clan of 5, and then we have our 2 bachelors, so Makoko and Enzi, living separately. So throughout all of our training and just having that training space within the raceway, even though we can move all of the animals through that race, logistically trying to set up all the different clans in different places can be difficult depending on what we've got going on socially while we're breeding as well, while we have hyena birthing. That can all complicate things if we want to make sure that we're not disturbing certain areas. So that's kind of had a bit of a start-stop with some of our training, but also just whatever's going on within the clans as well. So if we've got some more nervous individuals, sometimes trying to separate them out to do their training can be difficult depending on what else is going on and the bigger context really of what's happening. Another challenge is staff time. So we haven't always had 2 keepers working on this round. Traditionally, it has been a 1 keeper round. That changed last year when we were able to get another keeper to help, and our training has definitely increased a lot since then, and we've been able to become more consistent with things. So we've got big plans for the future now. We've got that extra support there. I've already mentioned the number of animals. That is definitely something we're working on more and more, trying to keep staff and animal consistency going, and trying to schedule everything around teaching new keepers as they come through, and then also keeping our established behaviours maintained and doing new behaviours is a bit of a juggling act. Vet time can also be a big one. So we ended up getting some bloods last week that Kat ended up taking herself. Usually we have one of the vets or vet nurses come up to do the actual venipuncture, but we did have a hyena last week who was just struggling with having the vets present while we were doing that training. So we ended up handing over to Kat and she took the blood. So very excitedly was able to do that. We have on and off had keepers take bloods at different times, but for the most part, we've stuck with the vet team. But yeah, that can be a bit tricky if we've got other things going on, taking up the vet's time. And then our last point there is just different life events for the hyena. So again, kind of ties in a little bit with our social dynamics and what's happening, but we do pause training if we do have young cubs and we have females birthing. The last 2 hyena that we had who were pregnant, we were able to consistently take bloods throughout their pregnancies to be able to compare, which was pretty awesome. But yeah, those sorts of things, if we've got pregnant animals or we lose an animal or something like that, can kind of just disrupt things and change our training plans too. So we also just wanted to mention the future for us and some advancements that we've been doing or working on recently. So in that photo there, we've got one of our keepers, Tam, kind of just demonstrating our eye cone. So that cone was developed for a geriatric animal that passed away. His name was Gambo, and he had some ongoing eye issues. So we kind of were required to do different types of eye drops on and off for him, particularly later in life. So we developed that cone, and he would be able to present his head nicely, and then we'd get him to hold in the correct position, and then we'd put eye drops into his eyes. We're a bit limited with that design because similar to what John said with our little slides in the other yard, we only have the one eye cone in that one spot. We have talked about having a cone that can move around to different locations. But yeah, that might be something for the future. We've also been doing some X-ray training. So we have a specially designed X-ray crate that's made of Perspex sides that we can do X-rays in. And we've done X-rays mostly for pregnancies. But yeah, we have a couple of other options there for that we're still working on. And then we've got some other plans for our painted dogs as well. So Kat's been doing some beautiful training with them, but their training has also been a bit start-stop, just depending on what we've got going on socially. So I think that's about it, really.
Yeah, excellent. I guess I'd like to thank Kat as well for putting this little slideshow together. She's done very well at getting all that put together. Sheila, do you?
I do have a question, but Yes, thank you so much, guys. That presentation was brilliant, and I'm sure really interesting for everybody to hear. My question is, do you notice any issues with more dominant animals when the subordinates or nervous go back into the clans after a training session?
No. So I think because the space is, I think if we had the dominant animal sitting there watching the training session, then potentially, but usually they are a little bit more, you know, they're not sitting there watching and they're not kind of in the space to be able to be involved. So when we put them back in, I haven't ever had any issues with, you know, Fahari here is now number 3 in the 7, you know, 3 or 4 in the clan of 7, and I've never had issues with her going back and getting hammered for that. So yeah, no, she's good.
Thank you. That was great.
Excellent. Do we want to hand over to Dean and then just do collective questions at the end?
Yeah, I think that would work. If you're ready to go, Dean.
We sure are. As soon as we
You know how to share, I guess.
share screen.
To
Oh,
team.
no, already got it wrong.
And share at the top.
Great.
John, you may need to unshare your screen.
Yeah.
Oh,
And then your presentation up.
No, we're good.
Yeah.
did that work?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, worked
Right.
well.
Great. Half the battles are done. For those of you who don't know us, my name's Dean. I am the manager of animal training here at Sydney Zoo, and I have the lovely Beck with me. That's it.
You're going to do it for me. Hi guys, I am the supervisor of our exotics departments and also the tag co-convener with Sheila. So yeah, this is going to be really exciting.
We thought we'd kick off. Beck's going to introduce the clan to you quickly. I forgot to make a slide for them, so terribly sorry. It'll just be this one.
Yeah, so we're quite lucky. Our clan is a lot easier to manage than Monado and their giant numbers, which we're a bit jealous of. But so we have mum, dad, and then 3 offspring. So we have Mahali, who is young female at around 4, Atana, the dad at 12. We have firstborn female Zawadi, who is getting up to about 18 months now, and then the 2 recent cubs who are at 8 months old now. So quite nice and cohesive, and the cubs are female as well. So Atana is a lucky man.
Poor
Yeah.
Atana. So we'll run through a little bit about in-house setup. We thought we could draw blood through the jugular, through the mesh as it was. Turns out it wasn't going to work for a whole host of reasons. Just any slight movement was not conducive to actually taking blood. So our incredibly intelligent maintenance team designed and built our very simplistic yet effective jugular blood draw. In taking photos of it, I worked out it's quite hard to take photos of to show everybody. But the first photo is with the door closed. So basically it's an extra set of mesh that was put on hinges. So we could cut sections out of the mesh on the inside at different heights. So depending on what hyena we were training, we have 3 or 4 options that we can pick from. So we can start the behaviour when animals are young, all the way up to the ones that we use for the adults. It gets padlocked closed. The other thing that we did was put this in between 2 dens. So because we were altering the fence, basically, we didn't want to alter any external fence. So this is in between 2 dens. So basically we go into 1 den to work it with the animal on the other side. This was the most cost-effective and quickest solution that we could come up with, that we sort of had to do in order to get the behaviours up and running. But we do have a few prerequisite behaviours that are required for any of our blood draws on any animal across the zoo. So this image, you can see this was the early stages of conditioning the behaviour still through the mesh that wasn't altered in any way. But all of our animals have to know a call over or a start of session signal. They have to be fully trained in their bridge, station, steady or a hold, as well as targets. Now for us, a target means not just your nose to an object, it's a whole body target. So shoulders to mesh, feet to mesh, ears, eyes, the whole kit and caboodle. And we obviously meet with our vet team to run through anything and everything that may be involved in the session that they will need, so that we can appropriately desensitize the animals to those things. So initially, when we were talking through with vets how long we would need for this particular blood draw, we didn't take into account the time needed to actually feel around and locate the vein as well. So in the early stages, that was something that we had to alter to ensure that we could cover off on everything. Again, across our whole facility, we do have a few rules around medical training with all of our taxa. The first one is we overtrain under ask. So if the vet says that the procedure is going to take 30 seconds, we will prep for it to take a minute. That way we can ensure the animals are fully competent and comfortable, completely past what is going to be required on the day. Obviously, there will be parts of any medical behavior that we can't really control on the day. We can't really prep for 100%. So we're hoping that the quicker time that it should take will alleviate that. We'll always be honest with the animal. We want the animal to understand and comprehend every aspect of what we're doing. And we want to make those behaviors fully voluntary. So we really make sure we don't trickle feed or distract the animals during any blood draw or any medical behavior, really. Even though it may work once or twice, in my experience, I find it's the quickest way for those behaviors to break down. And we really want those behaviors to remain strong, obviously, throughout that animal's life. So little things like ensuring we have or follow the ABCs of training. We want to make sure that that behavior is completed, the animal's understood what's happened the entire time, and then we can ensure that that behavior is going to be really strong. We want to make pain predictable as well. So any medical behavior that includes any sort of pain, we want to have the animal prepped to let them know that that's about to happen. When we're training staff, one of the best examples that I can think of to use of this is if we think of a haunted house. So the animal knows when we have the blood kit around or the x-ray machine that something is about to happen. So they can be tense the entire time because they know at some point a needle's probably going to poke them. If you were to think of a haunted house, you're probably going to be on edge the whole time you're walking through. But if someone tells you that behind door 7 and door 9, someone's going to jump out, you can prepare yourself for that. You know exactly when it's going to happen. You can take a breath, you can tense, whatever you need to do to prepare yourself. We want the animals to feel the same. So while they now know that any sort of IM injection or venipuncture is going to include a cue that tells you, hey, we're about to do it, and that animal can prepare itself in any way, shape or form. We also have a really high ratio of good to bad experiences with it. So we want to make sure that we're doing at least 20 to 25, if not more, setups for every one time that we would to take blood or we would poke them with an actual needle. We also have a very strict one stick rule. So if we or the vets miss and the animal is still completely fine, then we do not repoke that day. 24 hours has to pass until we take it again. Obviously, if it is an emergency, that rule can be broken. But if it's just for a random in-house blood, if we miss, that is not the animal's fault. They have done everything perfect. That's on us. We'll reconvene the following day. Only because, again, multiple pricks is going to be a surefire way of ensuring that behavior isn't long lasting. And again, we really want to create these behaviors so that they are super solid for that animal's entirety. This particular behavior or this particular effort is with Atana. This is a few steps in his training. So again, he already knows the steady behavior. Again, with most behaviors that involve tactile with any of the animals, we have the stripper protocol, which means in order to start that, they can touch you, but you can't touch them. So again, we might do things like having our hand up near the mesh. The animal comes in, investigates that themselves. If they lean into it, perfect. They can touch you, you can't touch them, same as strippers. So I'm told. So we can desensitize those animals to that moving up through. So this behavior here, this is just with a pinch and a finger poke from Tim, who's playing the role of the vet. So Atana's sitting nice and still. One of the things I want to point out there that Beck executed beautifully is ensuring that she alters the time between her bridge and reinforcing the animal from the time that the vet will move away from the animal. So we want to ensure that the needle coming out and the vet moving isn't the bridge for the animal. So the guys will always make sure that they alter the time. Sometimes it's 4 seconds, sometimes it's 10, sometimes it's 2, so that the animal doesn't think that any sort of movement down around is any cue for them to sort of break that behavior. It's only when Beck bridges the animal. This is Atana again with some descents with an actual needle. We're making lots of noise, a fair amount of pressure there. Again, the pressure that we would use with a dummy needle is far greater than the pressure of the actual needle stick. So we're sticking true to our overtrain, under ask rules with that. Beck might talk quickly on one of the challenges she faced with Atana that was a slight overlook from us, as he already knew swabs. However, once we moved the swab from his hip for an IM injection, which was a behavior he had learnt first, to his neck, we ran into a whole host of trouble.
Yeah, so when we changed the batch as well, and I think maybe the concentration on the swabs. So we just tried to make it as random as possible with all different types of swabs and even different items as well, to get him out of the sort of mindset of anything new is scary and walk away. So when we reset into the blood draw from the neck, we just had to kind of get him in that space first, sniffing it and rewarding him for that and getting into position and then swabbing him. So yeah, we took a couple of steps back with the swabs, but it wasn't that hard to kind of get him to the point where he was fine with it again.
In hindsight, I mean, he's out of everybody, he's the sensitive soul.
Yes.
A step that we didn't think would be a step. He knew the swab behavior quite well, but obviously having it changed from his hip to his throat was a world of difference. And Beck jumped on a good point there. With him especially, it worked really well, is training him to expect the unexpected. So we do this a lot with particular medical tools we don't always have access to. So something like our X-ray machine, when we train the animals for X-rays, unfortunately the vet doesn't trust us to have the X-ray machine, cost thousands of dollars, on hand every day for a training session. When we had trained it, we would use something like a milk crate, and then the animal was really habituated to a milk crate, but then on the day when we brought the X-ray machine in, everything changed. So again, we were never going to get the X-ray machine. So our next goal was, we're going to train that every day will be something different. So a happy birthday bag, an old computer monitor, your laptop, anything that you could think of. And the animals quickly learn every day something random is going to be there. On the day it's the X-ray machine, it's another day that something random is here. There was no real difference there. This is Mahali and our vet. He's got lovely hair. This is her during a blood draw. So you can see slight movement there. When we didn't have the mesh cut out, that slight movement meant that we completely lost the behavior. Another great example is, I wrote Zawadi, but I'm pretty sure that's Mahali, is a voluntary injection. What I want everyone to have a look at here is when Samina says, the trainer, sorry, says going in to let the animal know that she's about to receive an injection, she pricks her ears up. She basically does what she needs to do to prepare herself for this. And again, Samina doesn't trickle feed her through this behavior. The animal knows, hey, something's about to happen, and I'll get reinforcement once it finishes. And that's it from us.
Thank you, Dean and Beck. That was another brilliant example of positive reinforcement training. And I'm going to open it up now to anyone who might have some questions for you guys. Anyone with any questions? No? All right.
It just means we did such a good job at explaining everything.
You did do a really good job, but everybody, both presentations were very informative. I've not worked with Hyena, so it always fascinates me just how intelligent they are and the things that you can achieve. So I really appreciate being able to listen to all of this. Mark's got his hand up.
Hey, Danny. Nice presentation, mate. Question, you hand feed your hyena? Do you have any issues with that?
No. If
Not
you actually
yet.
think they're probably the most gentle ones with it. We did, when Mahali was a bit younger, she could get a bit intense, but we're just very careful. And even if your focus goes off the animal, if you palm feed most of the time, your fingers are good, and you kind of get into a really good routine and mindset with how you feed. So all of our carnivores, we hand feed, no problems.
Cool, nice. Okay, thanks.
Does
I have
anyone
a
else
question. I have a question for you, Dean. What was your start of session cue? What was that part? You had a call over and
yeah. So one of the things that's quite funny. There's two reasons I'm a really big fan of a call over or a start of session signal. One, especially noticed with working with elephants, whenever we need to be around the habitats, for us, the way our zoo's set up, we're quite often around all of the areas that we would train. We really wanted to establish really clear guidelines. Hey, when I'm here and I've given you a call over session, a start of session signal, that means I want you to come and interact with me here, and it's all about this space. But when we are around those spaces and we don't want that, what I really want to avoid is any sort of frustration from the animal. If they've come down to go, hey, you're back here again, and I'm not there to do a session or to feed or to interact, then they'll go, hey, you know, what's happening? They could get frustrated, they could start pacing, all of those sorts of things. So we really wanted to have a really clear guideline for the animals. Hey, when I'm here and when you hear this sound, that's when you come over and we're going to start a whole host of fun stuff. But if I'm here and you haven't, please don't expect anything. You know, for some of the animals now, they'll see us go past, they'll stop and look and then go, nope, they haven't called me, off I am on my merry way. Again, with a finish signal as well, I'm a big fan of a finish signal only because, only if it's worked properly. So again, if I'm telling an animal I'm finished with them with any sort of fun stuff, food, reinforcement, interaction, I want to make sure when I'm finishing them that they're not just going to a habitat that doesn't have anything in there for them. So sometimes, again, they can go, well, if there's no enrichment, no food, no anything out here for me, and you've just told me you're all done with the fun stuff, then sometimes that can also have some kind of frustration-inducing behaviours. So what we'll normally do is make sure that once we have the session finished, that they either know another one's on its way in an X amount of time, or that they have got stuff to go off to. And I mean, easier when the animals have a nice social group that there's always something going on anyway. That one's probably more to think of when you don't have that. But yeah. And then sometimes I've seen trying to start a session that the animal doesn't know you're trying to start a session, but without a call over cue, especially with an animal in a big space, you've got buckleys of training a blood drawer if you can't call your animal over to do it. So yeah, that's kind of why I'm a fan of those things early on. And
what is your signal? Sorry, you just call them to you?
Beck can do it. It's really loud. Have you ever heard a guinea fowl?
Yes.
Beck will do her in person. No, it's hyenas. Let's go, or let's go. Only because they don't normally hear that any other time.
Yeah, cool.
But yeah, Beck can still do the guinea fowl noise if you want.
Poor Beck.
Do we have any more questions? Otherwise, we will finish a little bit early. But before we do, again, thank you so much for this drop-in. It's been very educational, and I love that we're all coming together to share information and to build up our carnivore tag. I think it's really important, and I appreciate everyone's efforts when they do present. So thank you so much.
No problems. Yeah, thanks everyone for coming along.
Anytime. If anyone has any further questions, if they, I'm sure Beck's email is there, reach out. We can assist further if needed. Or any advice or tips on our amazing quick build design. I'm very jealous of your device. I don't want to say the word crush because it's not they have free access, but it's a very cool design. Yeah,
it's worked well for us. Especially, I mean, with it being the original design for weighing, so you've got your load bars under there already. Everything else that we've sort of adapted to it seems to fit purpose. So yeah, it's good.
We've also used it as a backup when we haven't been able to access our painted dog crush training space as well. So we have been able to adapt it if we've needed to too. So yeah, it works well.
We've also used it as a gateway to